What's up, everyone? We're going to be going to the best NBA player props on PrizePicks today. Now, don't forget to like this video, as it does let me know to continue to give you free picks every day. So make sure to like this video, clicking that button down below. And if we get 550 likes, I will do another video for tomorrow. Now, I did want to show you the results from yesterday's picks from my exclusive Discord group. And as you guys see, we actually got 21 picks correct, which was absolutely insane. Now, a lot of you comment wanting to see how many I got wrong, and I thought I'd show you in today's video. We only got one pick wrong and got 21 right, which is a 98% win rate. Yes, guys, you heard that right. 98% win rate. So we're on a huge hot streak, but if you want to get a 98% win rate and get 21 picks right like me, win more bets and receive the best picks from some of the best bettors in the world for less than a cup of coffee, you can access the exclusive Discord and meet some of the best sport bettors in the game by joining my Patreon, which will be linked down below in the description. Once you join, you'll have complete access to the Discord and can start winning more bets today. So make sure to join my Patreon using the link in the description. And here's one of our members who just signed up and won himself $690 just yesterday. Another member who won $150 for the 7th day in a row since joining my Discord. So guys, if you want to win big money like our members, the link will be in the description. So go join the Patreon to have access to the Discord group. And I will be continuing to upload every single day on this channel the best bets and props. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my daily uploads. So quick shout out to George Banagopoulos. I'm new to you, but I'm in, so let's get this bag. And also shouts out to also Ponder Plays Prop, who also gave the 100 emoji. So shouts out to them, and if you do want to win a shout out in the next video, all you have to do is comment down below in this video and like it, and you can be in the running to win a shout out in the next one. Alright, so let's get straight into the first pick. And when it comes to these picks, I'm not saying to chuck all of them into a parlay and hope for the best. Pick and choose the ones that you like and the ones that work best for you. So the first pick we're talking about is none other than Rudy Gobert, and this one is for 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists, and this one actually is for less. Now, looking at Rudy Gobert, we actually have seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those 5 games, you see on December 9th, faced off against Phoenix Suns, had 24 points in rebounds and assists there. Then we also saw December 13th, faced off against the Golden State Warriors and had a 39 PRA, had a 22 PRA against Sacramento Kings on December 15th. December 18th, faced off against Memphis Grizzlies, had 36 points, rebounds, and assists. And then against Oklahoma City Thunder on December 20th, had a 24 points, rebounds, and assists game there. So unfortunately, we have seen Rudy Gobert go on the under in 3 out of the last 5, but that definitely does work out in our favor, as we do like the under for this situation here. Now, looking at actually Rudy Gobert, we do know that his average over the last 5 is also 29. So it is actually above this line, but you do also have to remember he has had some outlier games. But I do believe it's brought this line a little bit too high, that now there's a lot more value actually to go on the under. Now, looking at Rudy Gobert and Minnesota Timberwolves, they have themselves a very good matchup against none other than the Milwaukee Bucks. So it is definitely going to be an exciting game there. Now, looking at where both these teams do lie, we will start off with the actual Western Conference Minnesota Timberwolves. And looking at Minnesota Timberwolves, they are coming off, some pretty great games, especially the one where they did beat Oklahoma City Thunder. But right now, they currently sit at the 6th spot in the Western Conference, and they have a record of 18 wins and 10 losses. So that's a 64.3% win percentage there. They're also 10-5 from home, 8-5 from away, and are currently on a 1-game win streak. So they definitely have done a great job in that matchup. Now, looking at this matchup, we also do see they face off against Milwaukee Bucks, as we mentioned. Now, Milwaukee Bucks are in the Eastern Conference, but they are in a very different category, because they actually rank 11th in the Eastern Conference. So although, Bucks do have Giannis, they have definitely struggled so far this season. They rank 11th, and on top of that, they also have 11 wins, 17 losses. That's a 39.3% win percentage there. And on top of that, they are 8-8 from home, 3-9 from away, and are currently on a 2-game losing streak. So pretty interesting to see there from actually the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks, as we all know, have definitely struggled, but looking at them defensively, we do also see, starting off with points allowed, we see that Milwaukee Bucks do rank 21st and actually allow 117.4 points per game. So they do allow quite a lot of points there. When we look at assists allowed, we also do see that the Bucks rank somewhat low as a rank actually 15th, and they allow 26.8 assists. And then looking at rebounds allowed, we also do see that the Bucks also rank pretty poorly as a rank 19th and allow 44.7 rebounds, per game. Now, although Milwaukee Bucks do rank very low in overall team category when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists, we still do very much like the under for this situation here, because Milwaukee Bucks actually do a fantastic job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the center position. And this is definitely due to the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks have been able to have some great bigs in their roster. You know, players like Miles Turner, players like Giannis, even others off the bench. They have some great bigs, and they're all great defensive bigs, and we are expecting them to really slow down Rudy Gobert, and maybe someone else in this Minnesota team will do a lot more of that damage, coming into this game. So coming into this matchup, we do very, very much like the under for someone like Rudy Gobert. He has definitely done, a pretty decent job over the last 5, but we also have seen him go on the under quite consistently, and this is definitely due to the fact that when it comes to Rudy Gobert, I wouldn't say he has the highest usage rate in this team. When it comes to his usage rate, it is definitely very, very up in the air due to the fact that there are bigger scorers, bigger playmakers in this team, and I do believe Rudy really does only a very high usage rate job in the actual rebounding department. So, because of those unpredictable things that we can't really determine, if he's going to be a scorer, if he's going to be a playmaker this game, we are favoring the under for this for sure. Now, looking at Rudy Gobert and what betting pros actually have to say about it. So obviously we do like points, rebounds, and assists. Now, this one is an interesting one because we do actually see when it comes to points, rebounds, and assists, their line is actually at 23.5. So it is actually one point rebound and assist lower. So it is something you want to just take with a grain of salt. But a big thing about this is that when we look at the projections, we actually have the projections for 23.4 points, rebounds, and assists. And the line that we do have is 24.5. So that actually works out in our favor there. So that's why coming into this matchup, we do very much like the under for it. Now, when we look at the last 15, yes, he has had some, games and some big games at that where he's gone on the over. But as I've always mentioned, matchups. That's what's most important. And with a matchup like Milwaukee, who do a fantastic job against bigs, unfortunately, we definitely see him going on the under here. And we are agreeing with what the projection betting pros has, which is actually at 23.4. So for that reason, I definitely would keep an eye out for the actual under for someone like Rudy Gobert coming into this game. So Rudy Gobert, 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists, 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists for less, I think is a great pick. So getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about Kevin Porter Jr. So Kevin Porter Jr., great player. Now, this is actually from the same matchup, but on the opposite team. He does play for Milwaukee Bucks, and this one is for 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists, and this one actually is for less. Now, looking at Kevin Porter Jr., we actually have seen him go on the under in actually 1 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those 5 games, it is interesting to see because we do know December 6th faced off against Philadelphia 76ers, actually had a 36 points, rebounds, and assists there. Then December 7th faced off against Detroit, had 42 PRA. Then December 12th faced off against the Boston Celtics and actually had a 41 points, rebounds, and assists there. Had 15 points, rebounds, and assists against Brooklyn on December 15th. And then December 19th faced off against Toronto and had a 39 points, rebounds, and assists there. Now, when it comes to actually Kevin Porter Jr., we do very much like this situation here because we do actually like the under for someone like KPJ coming into this game. Now, we do know his average over the last 5 is 34.6, so it is slightly above this line. But coming into this matchup, we do also know when it comes to, Kevin Porter Jr. and the Milwaukee Bucks, we do know they face off against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, we did just briefly talk on this, matchup, but just to quickly remind you again, Bucks do rank 11th. They also have a record of 11 wins, 17 losses, but also over the last 10 games, they've actually had a record of 3-7. So Milwaukee have definitely struggled, over these most recent games. Now, looking at the Western Conference, looking at Timberwolves, Timberwolves rank 6, which we've touched on. They rank in the Western Conference that 18 wins, 10 losses. But on top of that, over the last 10 games, they've actually had a record of 8-2. So very, very interesting to see there. Obviously, coming into this matchup, it is definitely going to be interesting because, looking at Milwaukee, looking at Timberwolves, they're both from different conferences, and we are just expecting a pretty intense game there. But looking at Minnesota Timberwolves and where they do rank, we do see Minnesota Timberwolves ranked 10th when it comes to points allowed. They actually allow 114.3 points. Looking at assists allowed, we also do see that the Minnesota Timberwolves come in at the 5th spot, only allowing 24.7 assists. Then rebounds allowed, Timberwolves rank a little bit lower, but still very good as they rank 13th, and allowing 43.3 rebounds per game. So Minnesota Timberwolves are a fantastic team when it comes to restricting points, rebounds, and assists. But on top of that, we also do know that Minnesota Timberwolves are a fantastic team at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the small forward position, which is what Kevin Porter Jr. usually runs. Now, KPJ is a great player, do not get me wrong, but we definitely have seen him, against tougher matchups definitely struggle. I do believe when you look at the last 5, yes, it is pretty impressive. He's gone on the over quite consistently, but you do also have to remember that he has faced off against much easier teams and also much easier teams when it comes to restricting points, rebounds, and assists. So coming into this next one, we are expecting a little bit of a different sort of story because Kevin Porter Jr., although he is a great player, he isn't the highest usage rate player in this Milwaukee team. So you are expecting, other teammates to actually step up there. Now, looking at this one, we do, as we mentioned, like, points, rebounds, and assists for Kevin Porter Jr. Now, looking at actually where they have or how they've actually done. So, betting pros do have him for 32.5, but we actually have him for 33.5 for the under. So, it is a little bit different there. But what really stands out to us is that betting pros actually have a projection of 21.9 as his points, rebounds, and assists. So, that is significantly on the under here, which is why we do very, very much like the under for this situation for someone like Kevin Porter Jr. Now, when you look at the last 15 games, you start to see a little bit more of commonality where he has gone on the under quite consistently. And when we actually look at that, we have seen that he's gone under, on most of those games. And over the last 5, he has just been able to do very well against much easier teams. But that's why coming into this matchup against a team like Minnesota Timberwolves, who not are only just a great team defensively, but also do a great job at slowing down the pace of games. Minnesota will definitely slow down Milwaukee Bucks quite a lot. And as we always mentioned, when it comes to, pace, the slower the pace, the less volume, and the less volume means less opportunity for someone like Kevin Porter Jr. to score, rebound, or even play make. So for that reason, we do very much like the under for this situation here. So Kevin Porter Jr., 33.5 points, rebounds, and assists for less, I think is a fantastic pick. All right, so getting into the next player, we're going to be talking about none other than Nikola Vucevic. So Nikola Vucevic, great player. Now this is another points, rebounds, and assists. So we have been loving these picks lately. And this one is for 28.5 and this one is for less. Now, looking at Nikola Vucevic, we have seen him go on the under in 3 out of the last 5 games. Now, looking at those 5 games, we do see December 8th faced off against Golden State Warriors, actually had 18 points, rebounds, and assists there. December 13th faced off against Charlotte Hornets, had a 20 points, rebounds, and assists game there. December 15th faced off against the New Orleans Pelicans and had a 24 points, rebounds, and assists game. Then 33 points, rebounds, and assists against Cleveland Cavaliers on December 18. And then December 20th faced off against Cleveland again off a back-to-back and actually had 41 points, rebounds, and assists there. So we definitely have seen him, go on the under in 3 out of the last 5. And when it actually comes to, Nikola Vucevic and Chicago, we do see that his average over the last 5 is also 27.2. So slightly below this line for sure. Now, coming into this matchup, we do actually see when it comes to Vucevic, them and Chicago face off against Atlanta Hawks. So it is going to be an exciting game between both of these teams for sure. Now, both are Eastern Conference teams, and looking at where both of these teams do lie, it is somewhat close because we do see Chicago Bulls first come in at the 10th spot in the Eastern Conference. They actually have a record of 12 wins, 15 losses. That's a 44.4% win percentage there. On top of that, they are 7-6 from home, 5-9 from away, and are currently on a 2-game win streak. So very, very interesting to see there. Now coming into this next matchup, we do know Chicago Bulls face off against Atlanta Hawks. And looking at Atlanta Hawks, we do see Atlanta rank 9th in the Eastern Conference. Now, they have a record of 15 wins, 14 losses. That's a 51.7% win percentage there. They're also 5-7 from home, 10-7 from away, and are currently on a 2-game losing streak. So, pretty interesting to see. Obviously, looking at that matchup, it is definitely going to be an intense matchup for sure. And it is definitely up in the air. And when it comes to how this game will go, really does depend because both are pretty evenly matched. But we are looking at player props and looking at Atlanta Hawks and where they do rank defensively. We do see that Atlanta Hawks come in at the 23rd spot when it comes to points allowed, allowing 118.3 points per game. Then looking at assists allowed, we see that Atlanta Hawks rank a 19th, getting 27.2 assists per game. After that, we see rebounds and see that the Atlanta Hawks also rank, pretty poorly, as they also rank 23rd and allow 45.6 rebounds per game. So pretty interesting to see there. Obviously, coming into this matchup, we are expecting a matchup where Atlanta Hawks do pretty poorly in points, rebounds, and assists. However, the reason why we still do very much like the actual, under for this situation is that when we look at Atlanta Hawks on a per position basis, we do see that they do a fantastic job at restricting points, rebounds, and assists to the center position. So for that reason, we do very much like the actual under for this situation here. We definitely have seen him, do a decent job at times, but especially against teams that do a great job against centers, Nikola Vucevic definitely struggles quite a bit. And although he is somewhat of a main player for the Chicago Bulls team, we have definitely seen his usage rate really fluctuate quite a lot. And that's why coming into this matchup, we are expecting, a similar outcome for sure. Now, coming into this matchup, we do also know when it comes to actually Nikola Vucevic, we do see that they face off against an Atlanta Hawks team that we are expecting Chicago to actually control the pace. Now, although Atlanta are a pretty fast-paced team, we are expecting Atlanta to actually go down to Chicago's pace. So we aren't really expecting that fast pace of a type game. And we are actually expecting Nikola Vucevic to get the same amount of usage rate that we usually do see. And on top of that, with Atlanta doing a great job against centers, we definitely see him going on the under here. Now, looking at actually, Nikola Vucevic, obviously looking at this line, it is a little bit different because, Nikola Vucevic and PrizePicks have him for 28.5, while here they have him for 27.5. So, that's where the discrepancy is. So that's why we do very much like the under for this situation. Now, when we look at the projection, they actually have him projected betting pros at 33.5. So we are actually going against the grain on this one. So we are taking into account and all these different factors, also injuries from both sides. We are taking that into consideration as well. And although Nikola Vucevic has definitely had somewhat of a pretty good streak at times, obviously the last 2 games he's done pretty well, and also early on in the last 15 he's done pretty well. But coming into this matchup against Atlanta, we should see a very, very different story. So that's why we are going a little bit against the grain here, but we still do definitely very much like this pick. So Nikola Vucevic, 28.5 points, rebounds, and assists for less, I think is a fantastic pick. So getting to the next player, we're going to be talking about none other than Victor Wembanyama. So Victor Wembanyama, great player as we all know. Now this one is for 19.5 points, and this one actually is for less. And now looking at Victor, we have seen him go on the under in actually 1 out of the last 5 games. Now looking at those 5 games, you see November 13th faced off against Golden State Warriors, had 31 points there. November 15th, faced off against the Golden State Warriors, also had 26 points in that matchup. Then December 14th, faced off against Oklahoma City Thunder, had 22 points there. Then 15 points against Washington Wizards on December 19th. And then December 20th, faced off against Atlanta Hawks and had 26 points there. So very, very interesting to see. Obviously, looking at that, we have definitely seen when it actually comes to, Victor, he has definitely gone on the over quite a bit and definitely not on the under. However, However, we do like the under for this situation here, as his average over the last 5, yes, it is 24, so it is slightly above this line, but we do know that San Antonio Spurs face off against Washington Wizards. So it is definitely interesting to see. Now, looking at San Antonio Spurs and also Washington Wizards, we do also know when it comes to both these teams and where they do rank. Starting off with Spurs, we do see that they currently rank second in the actual, Western Conference. They've done an absolutely fantastic job, having a record of 20 wins and 7 losses. That's a 74.1% win percentage there. On top of that, they are 10-2 from home, 9-5 from away, and are currently on a 5-game win streak. So very, very interesting to see there. But looking at Spurs, they have been absolutely dominating, and we are expecting them to continue that, sort of streak coming into this next game, as they face off against the Washington Wizards, who unfortunately don't really rank too well, because they actually rank 15th in the Eastern Conference. They have a record of 5 wins, 21 losses. That's a 19.2% win percentage there. And on top of that, we also do see they are 2-9 from home, 3-12 from away, and are currently on a 1-game win streak. So pretty interesting to see there. Now, looking at this matchup, we also do know when it actually comes to Victor Wembanyama, we do actually like this situation, because although we see, looking at Washington Wizards do rank 29th when it comes to points allowed, allowing 126.4 points per game. So why do we like the under for this situation? And a big reason being is that we are actually expecting this to be a blowout situation, and still, since Victor Wembanyama is coming back somewhat from injury, in a sense that he will play minutes here when he faces off against easier teams. They definitely take him off pretty early. We are expecting that similar situation coming into this next one. Now, looking at their matchup on December 19th, that was actually against none other than Washington, and that's when he actually went on the under. And we did actually see only had 15 points there, and that's definitely due to the fact that when it actually comes to, Victor Wembanyama, we are expecting him to get off pretty early once this starts to head to a blowout situation. So that's why coming into this matchup, we do very, very much like the under for this situation here. When it actually comes to, Victor, we also are expecting the under, as I mentioned, he's coming back from injury. And looking at Victor over, betting pros, we do see something pretty interesting. They have him for 18.5 points. And, when it comes to what the bookies are saying, it is somewhat even there. Now, the projection is 25.8 points. And yes, that would be considered if you take into account that Washington are a poorly defensive team. But the reason why we are going against this is due to the fact that looking at, how it went last time against Washington Wizards, it was a blowout situation, and especially with Victor Wembanyama, who can definitely get injured very easily, we are expecting Spurs to take him out as soon as they can. So that's why coming into this next matchup, we do very much like the under for this situation here. So Victor Wembanyama, 19.5 points. Definitely keep an eye out for this line, because when we look at, some of those games, yes, he has had some really, really great games. Now, I do believe it's inflated this line, especially against a blowout situation here. Now, when we also look at, Washington Wizards, we also do see that they surprisingly do a pretty decent job at restricting points to the actual center position. So we definitely see that affecting this greatly as well. Now, a big reason for this is due to the fact that Washington Wizards, although they are a poorly defensive team, what we have seen them do time and time again is that when they face off against against, tougher matchups with bigger players, they tend to put a lot of their defensive focus on stopping that big player. So that's why coming into this matchup, that's what we are expecting. We are expecting a lot of that defensive pressure to go on Victor Wembanyama, restrict him as much as they can, and because of that, it will definitely have a huge effect moving forward. So for that reason, definitely keep an eye out for the under for this situation here for someone like Victor Wembanyama. We definitely see him going on the under here due to these situations. So for that reason, Victor Wembanyama, 19.5 points for less, I think is a fantastic pick.